guys, and welcome to my Nanjing apartment tour video. It has actually been over a year since I lived in the Nanjing apartment, but I just happened to be going through some old footage and realized that I collectively shot enough of the apartment to warrant creating an apartment tour video without actually intending for any of this footage to be a Nanjing apartment tour video. So let's get into it. Guys, guess where I live? I live right... where is it? There. So we moved into this apartment in early 2016 and we moved out in mid-July of that same year. We were told that the average price of a 6-month lease in Nanjing's Gulo district, which is where we wanted to be, is about $615 a month, which is about 4,000 kwai. They'll knock the price down if you do like a year-long lease, and you can definitely negotiate, but Gulo is one of the pricier areas in Nanjing. So you can get a lot cheaper if you live in a different part of the city or if you're willing to commute into the city, but for the Gulo district, that's pretty standard. So we came to Nanjing through my husband's program, which is a Chinese language learning program, and they had realtors that they already worked with. The apartment that we ended up taking was the apartment of a student who was there a semester before us, and she had literally just moved out, and so one of the admins at Eric's program actually contacted that realtor and let them know that there were people who were interested. So we went through one realtor, we were shown one apartment, and we signed the lease for it in the same day, like within hours. The final price that we landed on was $2,900 US for 5 months total. About $580 US a month, which is around like 3,900 kwai. The Gulo district is not set up in a way that like makes any logical like sense on a map. So actually for a little while I would get lost every single time I tried to find this apartment. So we walk up to the apartment and the entrance is like nightmarish to me. As soon as I saw it, I was like so thrown off because I had really never been to Asia before. This was my first landing spot in Asia ever. And so to be quite honest, I had no idea what to expect. So the entrance, I like to call the Bat Cave. But it was basically just a hole in a concrete wall, and you walk on some like wobbly steps that are not really steps, they're just like blocks of concrete that are like propped up in certain ways. We walked through the hallways. It was extremely dirty on the inside of the hallways. Like the walls are all marked up. It's not maintained. There was like trash and it smelled funny. We walk up 7 flights of stairs. We finally opened the door to this apartment, and the apartment's beautiful. We were told that the reason why the apartment buildings on the outside and on the hallway areas look so crap and the apartments themselves look nice is because there's actually no housing authority telling building owners that they have to maintain the outside of the apartment building. By the way, if you landed on this video because you are headed to China soon, be sure to check out all the links in the description down below because I have a lot of great advice for you. I have a China travel guide in video form, I have one in blog form, I've got my #1 VPN recommendation that I used for almost a year, and I even have a Beijing apartment tour video. So if you're actually living in Beijing, you might want to check that out instead. That is linked down below in the description. So I'm gonna start by showing you the master bedroom of this apartment. It's actually a 2-bedroom apartment with fairly modern furniture and appliances. So as you walk into the bedroom, you can see that we have this huge wooden storage thing, and that was so helpful. There was so much storage in this apartment. It was really nice. It was like floor to ceiling closet type thing. So that's where we kept all our clothing and shoes. I want to talk about this bed for a second. The mattress on this bed was about this thick. Much smaller than any other mattress that I had ever heard of in my life. It's even smaller than like any other air mattress I had ever seen. Like any kind of mattress would have been better than this mattress. And the reason for this is actually because firmer mattresses tend to be preferred in China. It's better for your health, according to Chinese medicine, to sleep on something firm. So the thickness of the mattress was really normal, but after one night of attempting to sleep on it, we immediately went to the store the next morning and bought a crap load of stuff to put on top of it. So we had this like mattress pad thing on top of it that would just slip and slide all the time. It didn't really matter. And I think at one point we even put like a thick comforter down on top of it. So it was like a mattress that was this thick with like this much padding on top. And it was like, it was doable. It was never a bed that I looked forward to getting into. Let's put it like that. For my nightstand, I ended up using a chair, which works perfectly fine. That's actually what we use in our guest room when guests come and visit. But Eric had a real nightstand with that funky little lamp that still cracks me up. I'm pretty sure that that lamp was like a mermaid shape, and it was like really heavy, like a super heavy, high quality feeling lamp. And then there was this lampshade on it that wasn't actually a lampshade, it was just a hat that someone had converted into a lampshade. is really strange. Also, you may notice that there is a flat screen TV in this bedroom. We got extremely lucky with this TV. It was new, it actually worked, we were able to hook it up to cable. I watched so much Fei Cheng Rao on that TV, you have no idea. Next to the TV was this like little desk thing, but the desk was not conducive to actually being worked on, so we really just used that as like a landing space for bath products and my like makeup and a couple other things. It was honestly just a table of random stuff. And then in the master bedroom, you can see there's these huge curtains. So in the shots that you're seeing, the curtains are all pulled back. And what that is like a laundry room area. It was tiled, which is nice. All the windows opened up. Stay tuned to the end if you want to hear the the drama that ensued with the windows, though. I'll have to tell you about it. When you reach out the window, there's these metal rods that are expandable and collapsible. So you like pull them out and you can hang your clothes over it. So we are on like the top floor of this building, and in order to dry my clothes, I was like leaning out the window, hanging the clothes up and putting clips on, and I definitely have this like instinctual fear of heights. You can see the washing machine in here, and you might notice if you're from the States that there's no dryer. And that's because you wash all the clothes in the washing machine and you hang them to dry. Nanjing gets really humid in the summer, so this actually became quite an issue later on, especially for denim. Things just were not drying and we couldn't figure out how to make them dry. So actually there were a couple times where we ended up kind of hotboxing the bedroom, if you will, by shutting the door, shutting the curtains, hanging all the clothes inside, and blasting the heat in the summer. I feel sweaty just thinking about it. But that was the only way we could get our clothes to dry at one point in the summer because Nanjing is very, very humid. Winter and spring though, clothes were drying just fine. It was really just when it started to hit that really hot season, it was like impossible to dry anything. It's an easy thing to opt out of. It wasn't hard for me to adjust to not having a dryer. So let's step out of the bedroom for a second and go into the dining, living? I don't know what you'd call this room. The main room. So this is actually the room that you walk into when you first walk into the apartment. It has a really big table, which is where we did all our work. We did not use that janky little desk in the bedroom because it just wouldn't stand up to anything. I always did my work at this table. It's got that cool like storage decorative area thing like next to it too, so it was kind of fun to like just kind of store all our stuff in there and make it look kind of cool. The ceiling was really interesting though. That floral tile definitely confused me quite a bit every day. I hated it actually. And one of those panels actually did fall on my head once. Yeah, there were a couple things that fell on my head in this apartment actually. Pretty straightforward room, big table, chairs, storage-ish type thing. Then the fridge. Super modern, super nice stainless steel. Did not expect that at all. But what confused me for a very, very long time was why does it have 3 compartments? I'm used to a fridge with a freezer, and I did not understand what on earth the middle one was for. And then I realized the fridge is where you keep things cold enough to the point where they're not gonna rot. The bottom one was the freezer. So that's where you keep things like hard as a rock frozen. The middle one was actually like a middle temperature between a fridge and a freezer. So it wasn't really intended to like straight up freeze things, but if you put a Coke in there, which I did a couple times in the summer, it would actually freeze up and get like kind of slushy like. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm still not quite sure what Chinese people use the middle one for, but yeah, it was like an in-between temperature. It wasn't really used very often, to be honest with you. The kitchen itself was way nicer than I expected. You'll see a recurring theme. This was all a lot nicer than I had kind of anticipated from the first moment of like walking up to the apartment and walking up the janky stairs, and then you go in and there's like hardwood floor and like everything's like clean. So anyways, the kitchen had a gas stove. I love gas stoves. I don't even have one here. I'm so thankful for that gas stove. When you combined that with the wok, woo, there were some magical dishes that were cooked on that stove. The flame got extremely high and really hot, like super fast, and it made for like really awesome Chinese style cooking, really yummy. And then it had a big vent that you like open up and you turn it on, and it worked super well. So there was never any kind of like, you know, smoke issue in the apartment. I'll tell you about the gas stove incident at the end of this too. That included me screaming and running away from it, so I'll share that at the very end. So this kitchen actually came fully furnished, which was a huge money saver for us. It had a cutting board, knives, silverware, dishes, wok, cooking utensils, a water heater. The only thing it didn't have was a rice cooker that I felt comfortable using. The rice cooker that they had in the apartment was so old and gross that we ended up getting a new rice cooker, but those are not very expensive anyways. I think we paid like $10 for a new rice cooker at Carrefour or something like that. So yeah, I liked this little kitchen. It was a really nice little setup. It was fully functional. And if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure that the sink in the kitchen did regulate temperature from cold to hot. Because if you remember, our sink in Beijing actually only did one temperature at a time. So we're gonna move on to the bathroom, but I wanted to point out something in between the two. There's a picture of this couple that looks like they're European or American or something, and it's like their wedding day photo, and it looks like it's from the 80s, and the way that she's looking at him makes it look like she wants to like get a divorce on the day of her wedding. I don't know. This picture cracked me up every time I looked at it, and it didn't make any sense why it was in the apartment, but that's fine. The bathroom. I did not appreciate this bathroom enough when we used it because I was like, oh, your bathroom is so small. I hate how the whole bathroom is the shower and then it gets the toilet wet and it's super annoying. That is before the Beijing apartment. Now looking at this bathroom, it looks like a dream. The Nanjing bathroom was like a bright white, fully tiled. It was a Western style toilet. We actually had a Western style toilet at both apartments. And yeah, my biggest complaint was that when I took a shower, the trash can in the bathroom would get water in it and it was kind of annoying and disgusting. But we were able to flush toilet paper down this toilet, unlike the one in Beijing, so it could have been a lot worse now that I think about it. Because bathrooms can vary quite a bit in China, but it's very, very typical to have the entire bathroom be also the entire shower and everything just gets wet when you take a shower. So moving on to the last room in the house. This is the guest room and it's the one I have the least photos of. I actually don't really even have a photo of the storage thing inside there. There was another one of those big closets with the drawers and the rods and all that stuff. We did not need that extra space, but we ended up with it because that's just the way it had to be. So that room was actually used as like Eric's office space, and then it was also our House of Cards viewing room. We would turn all the lights off, we would put all the pillows against the wall and sit on that like a couch, turn the speakers up as loud as they could go, and we would watch House of Cards in there. So it was kind of our like lounge room slash Eric did his work in their room. I don't know. We used it sometimes, not enough. And that mattress was the same situation, if you're curious. So yeah, that was the apartment. If you're wondering how I got around the city, I pretty much just biked everywhere. So this apartment setup in Gulo and having a bike and access to the subway, the whole thing made living in Nanjing super easy and comfortable. So I actually really enjoyed our time spent in that apartment. I definitely had many lonely moments in there, but I also I grew into myself a bit more and I got a lot of blog work done there. So overall, when I look at these pictures, it gives me like really good memories. But there was one major thing that really drove me up the wall about this apartment and the neighborhood that we lived in. It was so loud. Oh my God. The landlord wouldn't stop talking about how quiet the neighborhood was. And I got all this through translation. I couldn't actually communicate with our landlord, which was pretty funny. She would just keep talking and talking in Chinese, even though she knew I had no idea what she was saying. Anyways, there was a grocery store right outside our kitchen and bathroom window, like outside those windows, down on the ground level, there was a grocery store with like 3 or 4 of these kids' toys set in front of it. The kinds of ones where you put in like a coin, and it'll be like a car or like an animal, and the kid just sits on it and it goes back and forth and it plays music, right? So there were ones there that played Mo Li Hua, and I literally have heard Mo Li Hua probably like at least 1,000 times at this point, at least. And so I'd be in the apartment being like da 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 da, because it would just play over and over and over, and it would drive me up the wall. And there were people with like megaphones biking around the neighborhood, and people just freaking yelling and children screaming, and it just never stopped. It was so freaking loud. I don't know how, but the Beijing apartment was so much quieter. It must have been because there were a couple schools nearby of the Nanjing apartment, and so when school let out, from then until people were like basically in bed, it was crazy loud all day long. It drove me up the wall. It's a compromise, you know, nothing's perfect, and I don't live there anymore, so it's fine. Really quickly, I wanted to tell you 2 funny stories that happened in this apartment. So number 1, the stove incident. So our stove, for some reason, after a while of using it, it would make that clicky noise, but it wouldn't light. So we were using a lighter. So when I cook, I'm all over the place. My hands are just wet the whole time. I'm just like washing them, working on things, washing them continuously, and I don't really take the time to dry my hands enough. I couldn't find any kind of lighters that are like the Bic style, where it does the little like rolly thing, and then you hit the button button. It was like the push button start lighters. So I pushed the button on the lighter. I had my hand on the knob at the same time. My hands were wet, and as soon as I hit that button, I saw a spark come like off of my hand that was on the knob, and my whole body had this really weird feeling. It happened so fast that I don't really know exactly like the details of like how I reacted to it, but all I know is that as soon as it happened, I literally screamed and ran out the kitchen, and I was going like this. I was like, and I was like really freaked out. And Eric was there, and he was like, what on earth just happened? Apparently, water mixed with a start lighter like that can lead to electrocution. And so normally if I had hit that with wet hands, it wouldn't have been a huge deal. But the reason it actually hurt and made me feel really weird is because I had my feet on the ground and my hand was on a knob, so there was nowhere for the electrical current to go. So it actually traveled across my body and came out the hand that was touching the gas stove knob. So the hand that hurt the most was the one that was touching the knob, not the one that was touching the lighter. But yeah, it was really scary, and I learned a lesson that day. We're on the final story, which is a little more related to the Chaboudois style of Chinese apartments. So Chaboudois is kind of like the idea of like, good enough. And it applies to a lot of aspects of Chinese construction, unfortunately. So on one of our first days in the apartment, I had just done laundry and I was leaning out the window to hang it up. Everything's done, I closed the window, but the window like won't shut fully. And I wanted to be able to lock it because we had this lecture from this police officer in China who was like, one time in Nanjing, a guy climbed up 12 stories and got into an apartment through a window to steal stuff. And I was like, oh my God, we're totally targets. We're the only foreigners in this neighborhood. We have like expensive passports, expensive electronics, all that kind of stuff. And so I was freaked out and determined to always lock the windows. I was trying to manipulate this like big window pane to get into place so that I could lock it. And I actually ended up like realizing that I needed to be kind of pushed on in order to close it. I think you know where this is going. And I ended up pushing it out the window. The glass pane from the window started falling out of the window. So it was about to crash out of the window and fall onto the ground or onto any person below who may not have made it after that incident. But yeah, I ended up catching it very last minute. So I pushed on it, it started falling. I probably swore like a sailor as soon as it started happening. And I reach out the window and I'm holding it, and I have no idea how to get it back in because it was like the kind of thing where it was really heavy and I was holding a weird part of it. So I couldn't like move it to get it back inside. And so I was just like, Eric! And luckily Eric came and helped me get it back in. And when we called the landlord, she was like, oh, Chaboudois, like, well, it's back in, so it's all good. Just don't push on it anymore. And she was super casual about it. And that was definitely like my first taste of things are a little bit different here. So that concludes the Nanjing apartment tour and explanation. If you guys want to know more about this apartment or if you want to see pictures of it, I'll have a link down below to a blog post I wrote while we were still living there. And if you haven't satisfied your apartment tour craving yet, I got the Beijing apartment tour linked above right there. So be sure to go check that out. I am actually daily vlogging this month. I'm going to be making a video every single day. So be sure you subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss anything. If you want to support my channel, go check out my Patreon page that is linked down below. And if you have more questions about China, there's a ton of resources down below. And you can always email me personally. And if you have a specific question and you don't want to have to dig through my blog, I'll send you my personalized recommendations and we'll get this done. So if you are headed to China soon, good luck with everything. Definitely let me know where you're going down in the comments, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow because it's Vlogmas now. Okay, bye!